In the beginning. O Great Spirit, who art before all else, who dwells in every object, in every person, and in every place, we cry unto thee. We summon thee from the far places into our present time and awareness.
O Great Spirit of the North, who gives wings to the waters of the air and rolls the thick snowstorms before thee, who covers the earth with a sparkling crystal carpet above whose deep tranquility every sound is beautiful. Temper us with strength to withstand the biting blizzards, yet make us thankful for the beauty which follows and lies deep over the warm earth in its wake.
O Great Spirit of the East, the land of the sun, who holds in your right hand the years of our lives, and your left hand the opportunities of each day. Brace us that we may not neglect our gifts, nor lose in laziness the hopes of each day and the hopes of each year.
O Great Spirit of the South, whose warm breath of compassion melts the ice that gathers round our hearts, whose fragrance speaks of distant springs and summer days, dissolve our fears, melt our hatreds, kindle our love into flames of true and living realities. Teach us that the one who is truly strong is also kind. The one who is wise tempers justice with mercy. The one who is truly brave matches courage with compassion.
O Great Spirit of the West, the land of the setting sun, with your soaring mountains and free, wide-rolling prairies, bless us with knowledge of peace, which follows purity of striving, and the freedom which follows like a flowing robe in the winds of a well-disciplined life. Teach us that the end is better than the beginning, and that the setting sun glories not in vain.
O great Spirit of the heavens, on the day's infinite blue, and amid the countless stars of the night season,
remind us that you are vast, that you are beautiful and majestic, beyond all of our knowing and telling, but also that you are no further from us than the tilting upwards of our hands and the raising of our eyes.
Esprit de la terre, mets sous nos pieds, maître des métals, Seigneur de grenier, et celui qui veille sur les réseaux fréquents
La terre, aidez-nous entendons en triomphant pour ta bonté constante.
De nuestras almas, ador en el alelo de nuestro corazón y en nuestras aspiraciones más altas. Abre con nosotros ahora,
para que podamos ser conscientes de las grandes maneras que usted está inventando el Instituto IBVM, el Instituto Profético, que podamos ser conscientes de su don de la vida y ser dueños inestable de la vida en este momento del tiempo.
Veni Sancte Spiritus,
Veni Sancte Spiritus, Veni Sancte Spiritus, Veni Sancte Spiritus,
Veni Sancte Spiritus, Veni Sancte Spiritus, Veni Sancte Spiritus, Veni Sancte Spiritus, Veni Sancte Spiritus, Veni Sancte Spiritus.
Am I connecting? Okay. So just aware that this is not even a second in the vast time span of the universe that we've just been reminded of. We need to enter into that second. The Spirit has brought us here to really begin today. We express our commitment to the role we accepted several months ago. And so I'm going to call you by name and remind you that you have been called. Anne Kelly, you were called to stand and take up your role as a member of this general congregation. Christine Jaffarali, you were called to stand and take up your role as a member of this GC. Elena Cerderas, you are called to stand and take up your role as a member of this GC. Ephigenia Gachiri, you are called to stand and take up your role as a member of this GC. Igor Pinto, you are called to stand and take up your role as a member of this GC. Noel Koskadon, you are called to stand and take up your role as a member of this GC. Ursula Witkowska, you are called to stand and take up your role as a member of this GC. Anne McAvoy, you are called to stand and take up your role as a member of this GC. Evan Hunter, you are called to stand and take up your role as a member of this GC. Macarena Fernandez de Bobadilla, you are called to stand and take up your role as a member of this GC. Monica Suchiang, you are called to stand and take up your role as a member of this GC. Pat Murray, you are called to stand and take up your role as a member of this GC. Seraphine Nwegi, you are called to stand and take up your role as a member of this GC. Teresa McGlinchey, you are called to stand and take up your role as a member of this GC. Christine Burke, you are called to stand and take up your role as a member of this GC. Denise Sullivan, you are called to stand and take up your role as a member of this GC. Geraldine McAleer, you are called to stand and take up your role as a member of this GC. Breed Quirk, you are called to stand and take up your role as a member of this GC. Kay Foley, you are called to stand and take up your role as a member of this GC. Yvonne Gomes, you are called to stand and take up your role as a member of this GC. Priska Vadakapundi Kulam, you are called to stand and take up your role as representative of Congregación Jesu in this GC. Anita Maria Briganza, you are called to stand and take up your role as a member of this GC. Barbara Nelson, you are called to stand and take up your role as a member of this GC. Carmen Diston, you are called to stand and take up your role as a member of this GC. Elizabeth Donnan, you are called to stand and take up your role as a member of this GC. Imelda Poole, you are called to stand and take up your role as a member of this GC. Judy Nakeza, you are called to stand and take up your role as a member of this GC. Orla Tracy, you are called to stand and take up your role as a member of this GC. Thank you. Beatrice Stewart, you are called to stand and take up your role as a member of this GC. Brenda Egan, you are called to stand and take up your role as a member of this GC. Helen O'Riordan, you are called to stand and take up your role as a member of this GC. Jane Frances Molongo, you are called to stand and take up your role as a member of this GC. Mary Wright, you are called to stand and take up your role as a member of this GC. Pat Grant, you are called to stand and take up your role as a member of this GC. Thrace, your Cantong, you are called to stand and take up your role as a member of this GC. Sarah Dobson, you are called to stand and take up your role as representative of Congregatio Jesu at this GC. Elizabeth Cotter, you are called to stand and take up your role as a member of this GC. Isabel Gortazar Lasea, you are called to stand and take up your role as a member of this GC. Janet Palafox, you are called to stand and take up your role as a member of this GC. Sabrina Edwards, you are called to stand and take up your role as a member of this GC. Sandra Perrott, you are called to stand and take up your role as a member of this GC. Yolanda Mendoza, you are called to stand and take up your role as a member of this GC. Antoinette Rodriguez, you are called to stand and take up your role as a member of this GC. Barbara Murphy, you are called to stand and take up your role as a member of this GC. Jane MacDonald, you are called to stand and take up your role as a member of this GC. Margaret Mary Flynn, you are called to stand and take up your role as a member of this GC. Mary Gitau, you are called to stand and take up your role as a member of this GC. Mira Santillan Davila, you are called to stand and take up your role as a member of this GC. Una Coogan, you are called to stand and take up your role as a member of this GC. Thank you. Catherine Ryan and Bardas Seabury, you are called to stand and take up your roles as facilitators in this GC. Thank you both. Mary Balderstone, you are called to stand and take up your role as support person in this GC. Maria Lopez and Anne O'Connell, you are called to stand and take up your role as interpreters in this GC. Catherine Kerr and Maria Sueta, you are called to stand and take up your support role. Thank you. So, having formally called ourselves or reminded ourselves of the call, I too am willing to respond to the call of the Spirit to be here and be a member of this GC. Okay. So very aware of people out there, north, south, east and west, even though I think the west are still asleep. Here we are at last gathered. After all the months of preparation and long journeys for many, we've arrived at the starting point of this significant phase of the GC process. It's my privilege and joy to welcome you to this, the second ordinary general congregation of the Loreto branch of Mary Ward's Institute. As you know, the 2009 GC was extraordinary, and the Lima GC was the first time that our united branches were together. This is the second time. You've already had a little time to experience the warmth of Spanish culture and hospitality and to explore this special place, Loyola a Spezia, with its deep significance for all of us who have Ignatian spirituality. Mary Ward never visited Spain, as far as we know. However, I think it's true to say that one of her most helpful supporters from the early days in Saint-Omer was the Infanta Isabella Clara Eugenia, whose father, Philip II of Spain, gave her the Netherlands as a wedding gift, no less. She herself became a gift for Mary Ward and the early companions. Then, 2 centuries later, Frances Ball went to school, as we know, in the Bar Convent in York, and she formed 2 friendships which were destined to last all her life. Her friends were both from Spain, Elena Roberts and Christina Gordon. Elena Roberts' daughter entered in Ireland in 1839, and she's known to us as Concepcion Lopez from Cadiz. History tells us that she never returned home again and used to say to the Irish, "You will never know until you go to heaven how beautiful Spain is." And I think we're enjoying that beauty here. She was one of those with Frances Ball in her final hours. She was a very special friend of hers. So I think you will agree that our IBVM links with Spain are in fact 400 years old, through the Infanta especially. Some of you will know that we had 2 beginnings as a province in Spain, in Cadiz in 1851, for just about 4 years when war forced closure in 1856. And then in 1887, the sisters returned to Spain. So we give thanks for almost 130 years of Institute life and history here in this beautiful country. On your behalf, I thank Isabel and the members of the province, past and present, for all they have contributed, not only to Spain, but also to Ecuador, to Morocco, to Peru over the years. We thank them and their co-workers for the warm welcome and hospitality we've already enjoyed in so many ways, for preparing all that we need for this gathering and preparing the opening Eucharist for this afternoon. We look forward to sharing in this celebration with many IBVM and CJ members and friends and co-workers from different parts of Spain. We are very happy to have with us our sisters from the Congregatio Jesu, Prisca from the General Council and Sarah from the English province. For decades, our different branches have benefited from reciprocal invitations to attend various institute events, retreats, courses, meetings. And these invitations began to include general congregations in 1998. Since then, in 2002, 2006, 2009, and 2011, we have been present together at GCs. We thank you both for your presence here in Loyola at this time. We know that it expresses your solidarity with us as Mary Ward sisters, and we're also aware that, as Jane says in her greeting to us, all your members are praying our special prayer since the 31st of July and will continue to do so, and we appreciate that very much. All have been familiar with the names of our facilitators since the start of the preparation process. Catherine Ryan is a Servite sister based in the south of England. She's worked with several religious congregations and has a deep love of Ignatian spirituality. We were led to connect with Catherine when a discerning process that she had used with another congregation was shared by them. She's facilitated various IBVM groups since November 2011, so she has a good sense of how we are when we are together. Barda Seabury comes from a different background, as you will have seen in her profile. She's an experienced consultant and facilitator who has specialized in working with leadership development. And she's currently developing her own training centre for non-violent communication in Ireland, living in County Offaly. She's worked in the past with Catherine and has experience in working with religious too. We felt it was essential to have 2 facilitators, and we were keen to have a layperson with us, knowing she brings a different, fresh perspective on life. So thank you both for being with us. Thank you. As we begin the GC, we gratefully acknowledge the work of the members of the Preparatory Committee, Maria Bongiorno, Australia, Carmen Diston, Institute Council, Brenda Egan, USA, Chris Goodman, Ireland, Marie-Ange Lim Kim Ye, Mauritius, Barbara Murphy, Institute Council, Judy Nkeza, Eastern Africa, and Monica Suchiang, India. Their creativity, insight, and wisdom have guided us along the way. We also thank Teresa McGlinchey and Mrs. Christina Stirpe in the office in Casa Loreto for the secretarial support they've provided throughout. Blanca Bergoreche has translated the GC material into Spanish. We thank her and extend our sympathy on the recent death of her brother. We're blessed to have skilled assistants here with us. Mary Balderstone, recording secretary, Catherine Kerr and Maria Sueta, backup office and liturgy support and doers of all sorts of things, as we've seen already, and interpreters Maria Lopez and Anne O'Connell. Blanca will be available for translation in the coming weeks as and when required, working from home. Then we're very aware of all of you out there, so many of our members, associates, co-workers and friends who are connecting with us at this time through live streaming. It is a joy for us to know that you are with us and that you can see us, we hope, and get some small sense of people and place. And now a very warm welcome to all of you seated here, members of the GC. Thank you for accepting this responsibility on behalf of the members of the Institute, and a special thanks to those who have taken on the role at short notice in the past few weeks. We have indeed gathered from north and south, east and west, knowing that it is the Spirit who has brought this particular group of us together at this time and for a purpose. Let us pause for a moment to get in touch with ourselves deep within, with who I am and how I am this morning as we gather. So as we become aware of ourselves, we can ask, what is the common bond among us as IBVM as we assemble? And our bond with our sisters out there, looking and listening. Isn't it that we are all members of IBVM? As we gather in the name of the Worldwide Institute, we do so first and foremost as members. Our sense of ourselves, my sense of myself as person, my sense of my giftedness, of my limitations, all are important. My ability to live out of the inner core of my being, the ground of my being, will greatly influence the light and shade that I bring to this gathering. We are all here as members deeply connected through our vowed commitment to God in the IBVM path of religious life and in our desire to be holy gods. As we look back over the journey of the past 8 years, a moment in time compared to the millions of years, there were some very significant events for all of us. The year 2009 stands out in our memories for several reasons. Together with our sisters in the Congregatio Jesu and with great numbers of our co-workers, we celebrated the 400th anniversary of the founding vision of Mary Ward. Then, in October that year, our revised constitutions were finalized at the GC in Rome. And only a month later, on the 21st of November 2009, they were officially approved by Sickelsal. And a month later again, on the 19th of December 2009, Mary Ward was declared venerable. So it truly was a year to remember. Around this time last year, in September 2013, we celebrated 10 years of reunion. And while the process of deepening our connection and ownership of each other and of our history is ongoing, much has happened to draw us together in the past 11 years. We are one in so many ways. 10 years of our IBVM presence as an NGO at the United Nations were also celebrated in 2013. We remember with gratitude Ivan, Doreen, Marilla, Anne, and Cecilia. And we regret very much that Cecilia cannot be with us here in Loyola, but it was not wise for her to come out of the US at this time. She was likely to have difficulty re-entering the country. But we will have a video link with Cecilia in the days ahead. There's one other event that I wish to mention, and that is the Toronto gathering in mid-2011, where in a gathering of 100, 25% were our co-workers. There was a heightened awareness of our interconnectedness and the interconnectedness of all things. At this time, all present expressed a great desire to somehow absorb JPIC into our DNA and to share the learnings from the gathering, working with membership and co-workers in all provinces and regions to try to ensure that we are indeed lovers of truth and doers of justice in this 21st century. Some of this has been possible since that Toronto gathering. There was great gratitude there for the fresh energy our co-workers brought to the gathering and a clear sense of the essential need to engage at greater depth with them. Hence our encouragement to all of you to draw our co-workers in appropriately during our preparation for this GC. As we gather here, we come from 9 provinces, 1 region, and 1 extended community of Southern Africa. The shape and size of the Institute continues to change. I think most of you are aware that a pattern of opening, closing, merging communities, ministries, and also provinces and regions at times has always been part of Institute life. There's little doubt that this will continue in the years ahead, with contraction in some parts and expansion in others. As we live a life after the pattern of Jesus, this is what the Spirit brings about. It is a life sourced in God's boundless generosity and grace, lived into the open and uncontrollable future. With Mary Ward, we entrust that future to God. And while we cannot control it, we do believe there is a future. And I said to Ursula yesterday, we hadn't talked about our words and the opening ritual, but you saw that that whole emphasis on future was there in the ritual and how important it is that we contribute to it. We can and must move towards decision which will shape and guide the IBVM future at the service of humanity. This is a key part of our role here at GC 2014. We gather with the awareness of loving support in prayer from all corners of the world. Our members, many associates and co-workers have been praying for us since the GC was convoked, and they will continue to hold us in prayer in the coming weeks. Our sisters and brothers in other congregations are joining us in spirit, including contemplative sisters who've been asked specially to remember us at this time, and the community here in Loyola as well. We know that our students, friends, and families are also praying with and for us. We are aware that not only are we connected in this kinship of grace with all of the living, but also with those who have gone before us, especially those who have died in recent years, and some who have died in very recent times. And I met some in Ireland who were saying, we're with you, and they're with us still. We remember in particular Monica Afonso, who was with us in Lima at GC 2006, and again in Rome at GC 2009. She went to her eternal reward, as you know, shortly before the preparation for this GC began, but we are sure she's keeping an eye on us right through. So let's just pause for a moment and think of all of ours, living and the deceased, and just to ask for their ongoing intercession. So with that kinship of grace and cloud of witnesses with us, we're conscious that we're taking a significant step in a process begun months ago on the 2nd of February 2013, World Day of Prayer for all those in consecrated life. And in the convocation letter, the God of surprises was mentioned. You might remember it was just about a week before Pope Benedict XVI announced his brave decision to retire. And what a surprise this was. All of our preparation time has been in the context of a significant change of approach within the Church. This has brought hope and a lightness of spirit to all of us, and Pope Francis encourages us to wake up, to wear God's smile, and to bring joy to ourselves and to others in the context of a very troubled world and a Church struggling to engage with a rapidly changing reality. As we entered this GC room today, we know that it's a brief moment, a little knot in the web of life in our Institute history. We trust that it will be a strong knot in the fabric of IBVM life and ministry, gathering the threads of review, reflection and discernment begun many months ago. We entered this time together with significant questions in our minds and hearts. The hope for outcomes will be the fruit not only of our work, but of much work by all our members, various committees, province and region congregations, province and region leadership groups, treasurers, secretaries and their assistants, and the members of the Generalate. The GC is the fruit of extended reflection on the part of all, ever attentive to the guidance of the Spirit. The purpose of the GC is outlined in our constitutions, and I needn't spell it out. We're well aware that it is an ecclesial event. We remind ourselves that a charism is given because of God's love for the world. Our charism is a free gift of the Spirit, given for the good of the Church and of all people. As we engage together here, we have a solemn responsibility to review our life together since the last GC and to prepare the way for the next 8 years. Our planet, our Church, our Institute has changed significantly in the last 8 years. It is now our task to engage with the signs of our times and to renew our commitment to a life lived after the pattern of Jesus. As Sister Nancy Schreck, OSF, said recently, excuse me, in her keynote address at the LCWR, Nancy said this: "The Church and the world need and deserve our mature love and commitment. The prophetic task is to articulate hope, the prospect of a fresh historical possibility assured by God's good governance of the future, even when the vision of what that will look like is not clear. So this is now our work in religious life, to hold the radical dream of Jesus for our world." So just as we pause to get in touch with ourselves and with all of our members living and deceased, could we just pause and hold the wider world before God and send out a blessing of peace to the really troubled areas that we're aware of? So Nancy's words were to hold the radical dream of Jesus for our world. How to do this will challenge the best of our experience, our skills and our imagination in the days ahead, as we discern our response to the urgent needs of this 21st century in the light of our heritage and tradition. We will elect new leaders and make decisions about future policy and direction as we endeavour to ensure the ongoing vitality and integrity of our institute. We will all hear Father Jose Antonio Pagola on the 9th, but I wish to refer for a moment to what he shared with us in Rome in May 2012. He said, "It is time to start a new phase of religious life, more inspired by Jesus and structured to serve prophetically at the service of the kingdom of God. The first thing is not to resign ourselves to live a religious life without conversion. It is essential to promote a sustained conversion over the coming years, which we have to initiate now and then pass on as a legacy and spirit to future generations. We must take steps towards the future, knowing that the important thing is not to repeat the past, but to be open to the Spirit. It's not the number that matters, but the quality of evangelical life that a community radiates." Here in this place of such significant conversion for Inigo, let us continue to trust in the amazing power of the Spirit to touch us too. We rejoice in the possibilities that are ours as we engage together, sharing life and energy. We can truly rejoice that our time is now, that we are alive today. These times of extremes of suffering and lack of humanity in so many places, and yet these times of heightened consciousness, of wonder and possibility too. You will recall that we use the phrase, "Our time is now," in the convocation video. Some of you will be familiar with the writing of Christopher Fry, English poet and playwright, and these words from A Sleep of Prisoners, written in 1951 in the post-World War years, World War II, touch me and hopefully will speak to you. He wrote, "The human heart can go the length of God. Cold and dark it may be, but this is no winter now. The frozen misery of centuries cracks, breaks, begins to move. The thunder is the thunder of the flows, the thaw, the flood, the upstart spring. Thank God our time is now, when wrongs come up to face us everywhere, never to leave until we take the greatest stride of soul that people ever took. Affairs are now soul size. The enterprise is exploration into God. Where are you making for? It takes so many thousand years to wake, but will you wake for pity's sake?" We are indeed being called to take significant strides of soul as we engage with each other here, keeping the end of the Institute ever before our eyes, the greater glory of God and the more universal good. Both Inigo and Mary Ward, in their journeying, turn to the Mother of God for strength and for solace, often. Placed with her Son, we too rely on the Mother of God to support us on this special part of our pilgrimage in the Institute. Be with us, Mary, along the way. Santa Maria Van. In this spirit of confidence, I declare this general congregation formally open, and we bring our broadcast to closure. It's wonderful to know that so many of you are connecting with us across the airwaves. Look out for updates on the website in the coming days as we keep in touch. Goodbye. Welcome to all here, and thank you. Thanks.